What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Run Your Mouth podcast. And my God, do we have a stacked episode today? You know, for 8 years into this thing, there's always, we'll get it on a regular schedule. They'll happen. But because of all the traveling, the touring, the this and the that, I've been packing away topics, been putting away the clips, and now we've got a giant episode. I had a blast being at Childerberg, being at the Libertarian National Convention, and then it was nice to actually be home for 2 days. And this morning, I went to my favorite coffee shop just down the block from me. And you guys want to know what my coffee smelled like this morning? Nothing. You want to know what it tasted like? Nothing also. And you know why? I think I probably have the OG. The OG, the original of the Coves. I didn't even realize you could still get this. Either that or if you attend both the Libertarian National Convention and Childerberg in the same 3 days, you might hit a higher form of autism. You might better adapt to these other people's lifestyles where your body starts shutting down systems of the resources that you don't need, and you put all of your brain power just into stiff analytics. And sure, you might not be able to have dialogues with the common man. That might be where you get to, but my God, will you be able to zone in on the things that you're obsessed with? So anyways, we'll see how much of this episode we get through, but I do have a stacked episode with a lot of topics, and let's get into it. But first, I had this thought, which is, how much urine do you guys think is on hotel towels? Because, you know, I've spoken about this before. I'm by the way, I've evolved past towels in my apartment. You ever want to come over to my apartment and you want to be a guest? There ain't no towels. There's the stack of the t-shirts that I've gotten too fat for that I now use as rags and towels. There's a whole bucket of them. There used to be mediums that I fit into. It's Titty City now. Now I just got a bucket of medium t-shirts that have holes in it, and those are the towels. And I find it's a better system. I also have some washcloths, and then it's great. I find it's more sanitary because you use them once, you throw them on your bathroom floor. Every once in a while you decide to do laundry and you collect the whole pile, and then you don't end up with the one towel that you keep pretending like, I can get another day. It's not that bad. The old towel was always green. That's not that bad. So that's my new system. Anyways, but when I go to a hotel, oh my God, I get a full weekend of fresh towels. You better believe I'm using all the towels the second I get in there. It's like a towel buffet. I got a different towel for every orifice of my body, and believe me, no matter how many towels they stack that thing with, it's not enough towel. But there's always one towel that ends up on the floor, and I'm going to be honest, I get a lot of urine on the floor. How much urine do I get on the floor? It depends on how much I've been drinking. And then I drink a lot of water. And then I don't sleep well in hotel rooms. And then every couple minutes, you wake up in the middle of the night. And at least I'm not a guy who pees in the bed. But I do get up a lot in the middle of the night to pee. I'm one of those people. And I'm only 36. This isn't going anywhere good. Hopefully when they invent like the robots where they can transfer our brains onto other robots and give me a brand new prostate. And I can sleep a whole night and then be one of these dudes that just takes the world's greatest piss in the morning. But that's not where I'm at in my life. No, I'm tossing and turning my sleep and urinating every half hour on the hour. I'm like a train station. This is a regular schedule of bathroom hotel urination. And you know, you're not used to the middle of the night exactly where that, like in my apartment, for the most part, I can go pee on my bathroom, no problem. There's no urine getting anywhere but in that toilet. I can be half asleep, leaned up against the wall. I know the exact curvature where I can stand at an angle and pee right into that hole. Except every once in a while, this has only happened once or twice, where you're too lazy to even put the the lights on, and then you find out when you don't hear the noise that you were expecting to hear that for some reason the lid was down, and then that's a morning thing. You deal with that in the morning. That's what the towel that's been hanging there all month is for. All right, this is not supposed to be an entire episode about how I'm a gross and disgusting human being. I'm very hygienic. Ladies, you can come over to my apartment. It's spotless. I got a bucket of t-shirt rags that we use to keep everything clean. All right, anyways. So at some point, you know, you take a towel and you put it down by the toilet and it absorbs all the urine, and that becomes your urine towel for the 4 days that you're in the hotel. But then I realized, all right, like that's kind of gross. And then even if they wash that towel, at some point it was just covered in urine. And how many other people are going to the hotel and putting down a urine towel that's also just absorbing all of their urine? And then I got to thinking that there's no way that they can possibly clean all this urine out of the towels, which then got me thinking, every time that you take a hotel shower and then you're using a towel, how much urine are you actually getting on your body? These are the kind of things that you have to think about, and the things that you do think about when you go to both Childerberg and the LP National Convention in the same 2 days and reach a higher form of autism. With that being said, porchtour.com. If you are a fan of this show and you don't come have a beer with me in a backyard, roll and bring me a joint, you got to pay tribute to the Run Your Mouth podcast as a daily listener. And, you know, go big on the ticket price. There's no Patreon here. Don't be looking at that donation and go, I'll do $5. We can buy tickets for 4 friends and then just show up as one person. And bring sandwiches, bring your beers, bring your pre-rolled joints. Make it a fucking party. Pay tribute and show up to a porch near you. You got the whole list coming up. The one coming up next is going to be Doylestown, PA. Then I'm hitting the road. I got a whole bunch of shows just staying out there on the road. Going to be a good time. All right. And I see the topics going wild over here. The chat section. I'll take comments in a section, except I left things in front of it. I can't see it. So we'll get there in a second. I was thinking, you know, I might hate war. We might talk out against war. There's nothing about war that's good. But man, do I love war films. I'm stuck on all these plane rides. I watch every single war movie. Every war movie is good, which is why I keep advocating for more of the good secret mission stuff. Secret mission stuff that you just take out the bad guys. I don't know, if you could have done World War II and not done the World War II, but done all the secret Nazi missions where you take out the naval bases, you take out these people, you get your criminals out of jail to go on their secret missions. I'm all for a good war movie. All right, and then I had one more random topic. Oh, no, 2 more. Do old people have better genetics than we do? Because sometimes I see these old people, and they're sitting on a plane. This is the one thing that's nice about being in an airport is you really get to people watch. I travel the country. I see a diverse array of people and the way that they handle themselves under stressful conditions, how they handle the airports, and I get to learn quite a bit about the way that other people operate. And I've noticed this. Very frequently, I'll see an old person. They've packed their own sandwich. They've got a can of Coke and a bag of chips, and I'm wondering, how is this person skinny? How is it that you're 86 years old, your knees work, you're not going to diarrhea on the plane, and you're having yourself a homemade, and they're never good sandwiches. They're never like on hoagie rolls. You know, like old-fashioned Wonder Bread. Like you're literally watching someone out of the 1950s commercial with a can of Coke and some like peanut butter and jelly on white bread, slice of ham. Simple times for simple people. Maybe they spent their entire life in prison and that's all they like is a prison sandwich and a can of Coke. But is that how much they poison the food supply on us? That these people who are like 85, 86 years old now, they had a lifetime of the good gut bacteria. And so they're getting to be 87, 88 years old and they're still able to eat sandwiches all the way into retirement. Like, I mean, how often do you just have a simple meal for dinner of a ham and cheese sandwich, a can of Coke, and a bag of chips, and as an 86-year-old, and then just go on your day and you're fine? And we keep seeing it with Donald Trump. We see that guy, what he's eating his cheeseburgers and his milkshakes all the time, never has a problem. Joe Biden, ice cream all the time. Sure, it gave him dementia, but we haven't really seen him shit his pants in front of the king or prince of Saudi Arabia in a while. He seems to be handling it. How much do they poison our food supply that there used to be a time in this country where you can make it all the way to the glory years of retirement of 87, 88 years old, have yourself a slice of white bread, 2 slices of white bread, whatever shit you're going to put in between it, a can of Coke, chips, and just be fine. All right, and then the last random topic was, shame on United Airlines because they repeatedly sent me these emails going, we're expecting more traffic than usual. And since there's more traffic than usual, you better get there more than your 2 hours. Usually we recommend 3 hours for the internationals, 2 hours for the domestic. But on this day in Washington, D.C., it's going to be a bombardment. Everyone's trying to get out of the nation's capital. They've heard that the libertarians are coming out of time, and everyone's scrambling. Everyone's trying to get the hell out of here. I've never gotten through a security line quicker. Does United just send that before every single flight? I mean, you use your emergency buttons for emergency situations. You know, you guys have the flight records. You know how many more people are going to be flying on any given day. If you're going to send me an email and let me know, hey, it's going to be super jam-packed during the time that you're flying, it better be fucking super jam-packed during the time that I'm flying. Otherwise, why are you sending me that email? You're just trying to scam me to get to the airport to spend more money at the Starbucks? Is that what you're doing? You're just trying to make sure that I show up here an hour earlier just to be more aggravated? You just want me to be on your plane more aggravated? How does anyone win by that? Is everyone getting in on the Spirit Airlines racket? Or so many few people flying Spirit Airlines and all the other airlines have to figure out how to be trying to, take our demonic energy from us and just get us all pissed off all the time? Anyways, all right, that's it for the random topics. Let me go just move this box and we'll take some comments. We'll see what you guys are getting into and thinking about. Benny the Jet letting us know that United Airlines is a huge piece of shit. I'm lucky I live in a Delta hub city. Dude, I agree. I can't live without Delta lounge access anymore. I've been spoiled. All right, here, let's take some comments. Let's see what's going on. If I can find my mouse. Here we go. Big Biz. My great grandma lived to 94, and all I remember eating was marble riband and butter. That lady ruled. Also, can I just tell you, my one living grandparent still smokes cigarettes. I mean, how good are cigarettes for you? That I got one grandma, and she's still cooking. She's still sharp, still agile, still fully focused. You can have a conversation with her. You can take her out for the day. You can hang out with this grandma, and she occasionally will still have herself a cigarette. So, all right, what else we got? Big Biz. They want you at the airport so they can cook you and scan you for longer. That could be. Right now, an 86-year-old husband is eating out his 85-year-old wife during matlock for the very last time. Rest in PSS. Thank you for that one. That was that was a good one, sir. Big Biz. How many old fat people do you see? What does that tell you? Robbie, am I wrong thinking you supported Reichenwald, but in your heart identify with Chase? I certainly don't identify with Chase, and we talk about a lot of topics on the show with great frequency, and I implore anyone to go check the record of what was said on the Run Your Mouth about Reichenwald or that prior to the convention. Go check. I mean, people listen to the show every time. Go see what was said about that prior to. DM, Robbie, without going to 6 essays worth on how big pharma and big government lie, am I crazy one for not taking an experimental, no long-term medical procedure? I don't know. All right, the comments are dying off. DM wins the first line of comments for pointing out that there's still someone out there watching Matlock, retired, eating out his wife. And thank you for that. Mattman, what up from California? Love your show. Thank you, sir. And I'd like to remind you that you have 3 opportunities in California to catch Summer Porch Tour. That's over here. We got Santa Barbara on August 2nd. That's going to be a Friday night show. Why is this so hard for me to figure out how to point in the am I retarded, or is this that complicated? I'm incapable of figuring this out. Okay, like I said, it's the bigger autism. August 2nd, we've got Santa Barbara. August 3rd, we got Angawanga. And then August 4th, we've got Hawthorne, California. All those will be with Brian McWilliams from the Lions of Liberty and potentially other local comics. And maybe Stephen the Wonder Boy, non-scientist. All right, let's get into some topics. We do have quite a bit of show to cover. So here we go. Let's... Producer man, get my presentation up on the screen. Let people know what's going on. All right, so let's start with this. The LP thing didn't work out that good, so we're back with traditional government. And how are they doing? So let's start with this. You got that situation. Sometimes our government can agree there's something that it urgent needs. We got to get our manpower behind this. The people of Gaza are hungry. We got to get them some food, but not to worry. I mean, we won World War II. We can handle logistics. We're the United States government. There's nothing in the world that we can't handle. If there's a problem out there, we know how to solve it. And so they admit that there's a problem out in Gaza. The people are going hungry. The missiles that we're sending are ending up in some of the wrong places. And so they go, you know what? We're going to build a pier and we're going to make sure that food gets to the people of Gaza. And so first is 70% of the food was stolen. And then the $300 million thing ended up getting lost out in sea. Goodbye, floating pier. It was nice having you for 3 days for only 30% of the things that you had to reach the other people. But I'm sure the people who are brilliant at logistics, I'm sure they're going to come up with a new plan. I'm sure they're not just going to leave these people hanging now. If they admit that there's something that's important that needs to be addressed, we all know how good government is at getting things done that it acknowledges to be important. And so on that note, as we explore our current government and how good it is at handling logistical issues. And by the way, you could have known that there were going to be increasing weather patterns. The Middle East is hotter than it is over here, and we're already dealing with global warming. So don't tell me that you guys spent $300 million on a pier and weren't able to make predictions for a hotter planet or for weather things that don't normally happen. I mean, if you're going to spend $300 million on something that floats, how many piers exist all over the world that don't just end up in the ocean? And don't tell me that you couldn't forecast for global warming. We all know that global warming exists. Hell, we're even dealing it with this country. Not only are we dealing with this country, apparently, if you're on a plane and you're experiencing more turbulence and doors that are falling off, it's got nothing to do with COVID policies or other government policies that put more Boeing's resources into the planes that are supposed to be used as weapons of war and not for the ones that are supposed to travel domestically. And so here is Pete Buttigieg. You know, he's that guy's locked in. He understands environmental factors, and so here he is letting us know that the increased turbulence on flights is in fact because of global warming.
The reality
Please
is
tell me we have sound, because I got a lot of clips on this episode.
Already upon us in terms of our transportation. We've seen that in the form of everything from heat waves that shouldn't statistically even be possible, threatening to melt the cables of transit systems in the Pacific Northwest, to hurricane seasons becoming more and more extreme, and indications that turbulence is up by about 15%. That means assessing anything and everything that we can do about it.
Here in the U.S.?
Well, in the atmosphere generally, but certainly something that will affect American travelers, whether here or abroad. Now, there are protocols and patterns for things like how pilots who encounter turbulence can notify those who might be coming in the path, but I do think we need to continually reevaluate that in the face of the reality that these things are more frequent and more severe than before.
That horrific video that people were terrified by when they saw the Singapore Airlines encounter such severe turbulence that actually killed someone, that was rare. But you're saying you do expect to see more incidents like that here in the U.S.?
To be clear, something that extreme is very rare, but turbulence can happen, and sometimes it can happen unexpectedly. Our climate is evolving, our policies and our technology and our infrastructure have to evolve accordingly too. This is all about making...
We need people to be moderately panicked. I don't want people to be fully panicked. I'm not trying to say that that freak occurrence is going to happen all the time. I'm just trying to say that it could happen more because of global warming.
The reality is...
And by the way, here's another article. The AP letting you know, is climate change causing turbulence to increase? And then just to further showcase the dumbassery of the government that people like to put so much faith into. So here they are. You know, they've spent trillions of dollars on this green energy initiative. They understand, hey, this global warming, it's going to kill us all. So what we got to do is reduce our carbon usage just enough that it won't do anything because India and China will continue to use it. But if we could just be a little bit less poor as some sort of a dramatic display towards a goal that makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. But we need all of you to get on board with this, because if not, the planet will, I guess, still overheat because none of the things that we're doing will actually make an impact at all. But, you know, as a tribute to this idea, we could all be less poor and less fortunate and drive less reliable cars that cost us more money while India and China continue to do what they do. But we could pretend like, you know, we tried to do something to help the thing that wasn't going to happen anyways. You know, I'm trying to be better at joining the liberals and understanding their perspective. And so for those of you who, you know, are fearful of global warming and think that the marginal changes that we're making in this country, that even if we reduced our carbon to zero, would make no difference whatsoever because China and India continue to do what they're doing, here's how they're doing on the infrastructure changes to make EV energy more reliable. Let's give it a listen.
The Federal Highway Administration says only 7 or 8 charging stations have been produced with a $7.5 billion investment that taxpayers made back in 2021. Why isn't that happening more quickly?
So the president's goal is to have 500,000 chargers up by the end of this decade. Now, in order to do a charger, it's more than just...
By the way, that's always the it's what we hope to achieve. Well, what the goal is, you know, someone comes in and they go, hey, so in reality, you're doing nothing. Yeah, but the goal is what we're looking to do. This is like what happens at the border all the time. Hey, we've got 1 million people sneaking in, you know, you're giving all, well, but what the goal of the border is for us to, all right, let's continue, because apparently they've only built 8 chargers.
Just plunking a small device into the ground. There's utility work, and this is also really a new category of federal investment. But we've been working with each of the 50 states. Every one of them is getting formula dollars to do this.
Isn't that fun? A new form of, in other words, yes, because, every industry in the world, if they're doing something innovative, they're coming in and they're bringing you something new. And guess what? Because they're a private business and they have to actually bring you value and services and goods in order to remain in business, they're able to do it. But the federal government, this is a whole new, because they're not actually operators. They're not actually good at getting things to us. This is a new category. You can't blame us for saying that there's an existential crisis and that if we don't get more of these chargers and get everyone off of their cars, just so that nothing will happen because of the China and India part. But overlook that. They believe that we're all going to die unless we switch over to the green energy cars. And so in order to facilitate that, they've put exactly 8 chargers into the ground for us.
Work,
7 or 8,
engaging them
though?
in the first handful, again, by 2030, 500,000 chargers. And the very first handful of chargers are now already being physically built.
Oh, that's not bad. Of the 8, the very first batch is coming to market.
The federal high.
Hey guys, seeing as how the government's not helping us with this whole global warming thing, you know what you need to be prepared? Sheathunderwear.com. Is there anywhere else where you're going to be able to get underwear that will separate your balls from your dick? Keep everything cool, calm, and collected and sweaty free? You heard it right from the press secretary. They're doing nothing to reduce the green energy scam. So, all you can do is live a better life yourself and make sure that you're in sheath underwears so that your balls don't overheat. While everyone else has plastic in their nuts and their nuts are overheating and they can't procreate, people who wear sheathunderwear.com, I cannot make medical claims like this. This is absolutely ridiculous. To be claiming that that in the hotter environment because of global warming, your nuts will be shielded from the added heat, and so other people's nuts will actually bake in the heat, and the plastic inside of them will start to melt, and their balls won't work, but your balls will work because you are wearing sheathunderwear.com. You can't say things like that. But if you want a discount, you can go to sheathunderwear.com, use promo code RYM, and get yourself 20% off the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. And he's got a Big Papa. Oh yeah, I just remembered that. You want 30% off. You might even be able to stack the promo codes. Either way, just hit up Bobby the Bank and let him know that you're thankful that you heard about this on the Run Your Mouth podcast and that your balls will be protected from global warming. Every single one of you, please, Bobby the Bank on Twitter, go give him a follow and say, thank you for protecting my nuts from global warming. And he'll have no idea what you're talking about, but it'll be a fun time. Or you can just go to the website, buy a pair of Big Papa, 30% off. All right. Next big news story that I would like to cover is obviously... we had to go through that whole COVID thing. Some of us still seemingly have to go through it because they went to the convention. Anyways, it seems like the system has somewhat turned against Fauci. Will we ever see the guy face criminal charges? Probably not. It'd be exciting. Rand Paul has certainly been working this case since it's happened. Pulled the guy into Senate, caught him in a lie, went after him. Hold on a second. Why can't... I don't really... Oh, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. All right. So you got this other doctor, and they got a hold of his emails. And his emails, you've got all sorts of talk of, hey, look at how good I am at deleting my emails. Hey, am I going to get kickbacks for getting this thing approved? So you got this other doctor guy who seems to have been in on the grift, working over at NIH, approving the funding that went to Peter Daszak, who's the guy of EcoHealth, who is the one who worked for Fauci to go over to China and purchase the virus. And now all of this is deep conspiracy talk. And sadly, the people that are best at grilling these guys was not on this committee. So I don't know if there are any great bombshells. The guy sat very calmly in the pocket and he said, I apologize. Everything I said about deleting emails and taking money, those were all just jokes. I'm a very funny man. Sure, up here, I'm a stiff and a bore because I understand how bad it looks to display your sense of humor in a public setting. And so, yeah, I might not be very funny as I sit here and you guys ask me questions about all the jokes I made in my emails that just kind of sound like being a part of a conspiracy where you're being paid money and covering things up. But listen, don't just take it from me. Why not watch the actual footage from the congressional hearing in which he addresses whether or not he received any kickbacks from the EcoHealth Alliance for processing the grant, because he did say in an email, am I getting some kickbacks? And then we'll look at all the emails that he mentioned deleting his record.
August 27, 2020, after NIH was awarded a $7.5 million grant to EcoHealth Alliance, you wrote to him and you asked, do I get a kickback? Too much fooking F-O-O-K-I-N-G, money. Do you deserve it all? Question mark. Let's discuss. Would you like to explain?
That's typical black humor between people like Peter and me and other folks who show up in these emails.
And he responded saying, thanks for the kind words, and of course there's a kickback, period. You think that's appropriate behavior between NIH, somebody who works for NIAID, to a grantee who just received $7.5 million from the government? My question, before I run out of time, is have you ever received any compensation from Peter Daszak or EcoHealth?
No.
Have you ever received any compensation from any entity outside of your employer and NIAID?
It depends. I don't know what the definition of compensation
Well, have you
is.
ever received any
I get
money?
a pension.
Okay, you have a pension, not government related. I'm asking specifically because you have to ask that question when you put it in writing, asking him for a kickback.
You know, let me. There's two parts to your question. Let me answer. All of this stuff was a bunch of snarky jokes, and I think we all knew that.
Well, I don't think any of us think it's a funny joke.
Well,
I mean, you are representing the United States government. You're representing an agency, and you're asking a grantee if do I get a kickback?
I believe.
Do you deserve it all? Let's discuss, ... So I'm going to ask one more time, remind you you're under oath, did you ever receive any money from Peter Daszak, EcoHealth, or anybody else outside of your employer, NIAID, or the federal government directly?
No, ma'am, with the exception of early after I joined NIH, I had a private corporation, and in which I used to do consulting. And shortly after I got to NIH, I realized there would always be a conflict.
Okay.
And that corporation has been silent for 20 years now. No income.
Okay. Thank you very much. I yield back.
All right. Well, he played off that his request for a kickback, which was, write in an email, just a joke. I think if you had your Thomas Massey's, because this lady kind of lets him off and goes, oh, wow, that's inappropriate. But I guess she's willing to accept that it was a joke. And so you didn't have some of the better guns going after this guy. But for those who did not previously see this news story,
And
here's,
August 27th.
Here's some of the best of emails as recapped from Fox News because it's right in writing. These are right in his emails, him talking. All right, let's give this a read. Sorry, I got more things blocking my screens. This is what happens when it's the live show, people. All right, give me a second, and then we can go through some of these emails. All right, first one. We are all smart enough to know to never have smoking guns, and if we did, we wouldn't put them in emails, and if we found them, we'd delete them. That's one email from Dr. Morenz. Here's another email from Dr. Morenz. I deleted the email, but I now learn that every email I ever got sent since 1998 is captured and will be turned over, whether or not instantly deleted it. Gmail, phone, text, I need to scrupulously rely on those exclusively. Continuing, I learned from our FOIA lady here how to make emails disappear after I am FOIA'd, but before the search starts, so I think we were all safe. Plus, I deleted most of those earlier emails after sending them to Gmail. Further correspondence between him, the guy from EcoHealth, and Fauci saying, hey, let's make sure that you're sending things only to my personal Gmail. Let's continue. Jerry, I'm updating you on my computer and gag order situation. With the help of our IT folks, I went over the whole computer and phone situation. They loaded some anti-hacking software on my phone and discussed the situation with me. Basically, my Gmail is now safe from FOIA and hacking, and all of my devices, including government computer and phone, and my private computer and iPad. Thus, it should be safe to communicate safely with you, Peter, and others as long as you use my private Gmail. You may have noticed that I've intentionally forwarded you news clips I get daily sent from my government email, but that is okay as long as you don't reply to that email. I've done this because this should not show up in an FOIA, as innocuous as it's just forwarding a third-party item already in the public domain, and because it saves me forwarding to my own Gmail and then on to you. Please pass this on to Peter, and I ask you both that nothing gets sent to me except to my Gmail, and make sure that what gets sent to my Gmail doesn't have a CC to another government employee who could get an FOIA. All right, let's continue. More damning emails. It's not like this was a one-off. It's not like there was one single email where he was like, hey, listen, I've deleted the things. The other people who were trying to check this on me, they told me how to do it, and let's go with my Gmail. Good news. Keep it up. I had a long off-the-record chat with PBS NewsHour's Nick Schifrin this morning. The craziness is receding at least a bit. I forgot to clarify my email yesterday that both my Gmail and phone calls are now safe. Text is not, as it can be FOIA'd, as can my government email. So you and Peters and others should be able to email me on my Gmail only, with the caveat that no other government employee is copied at a government address. And let's do one more. I can either send stuff to Tony on his private Gmail or hand it to him at work or at his house. He is too smart to let colleagues send him stuff that could cause trouble. And then here, let's watch. This is Rand Paul talking about what next steps should be to get Fauci.
I'm sending a letter to the Department of Justice. The question is, will the Department of Justice act? And frankly, if you were prosecuting this, what you would do is offer Morenz some possible immunity if he'll testify to actually what Anthony Fauci was doing, since I believe Anthony Fauci was in charge of the entire conspiracy.
So there you go. You got Rand Paul saying we need to get this guy to testify against Fauci and Peter Daszak. We will see what happens next in this escalations of seeming like the system's turning against these guys a little bit and willing to dig in a little bit, but it certainly has been slow moving, and I guess by the time they do, Fauci will just be able to pretend like he's got dementia. All right, let's read a couple comments. Fauci on if his house doors. My house has no doors. What it does have is a large wooden rectangles with steel cores. The wood rectangles allow access to my house. They aren't doors in my expert opinion. DM. Not bad. You know, robsnewsroom@gmail.com. Just send me the jokes before the show. I'll keep them. Big Biz. Should we bring back tar and feathering? Never forget what he did during COVID. And then Runaway Slav, Boomers and Technology, a tale as old as time. There you go. I mean, that will be the defense. That will be the defense, is exactly that. Your Honor, this might be brilliant scientists. They're just bad with technology. They preferred the Gmail interface. The tech person told them, just use the Gmail. They didn't understand why they were specifically going to the Gmail only for the emails that they didn't want us to read. They're old people. We all know the way that old people deal with technology. All right, what do we got next? What topic do we have next? Biden's canceling student loans, but you know what happens when we transition topics. We get money! YoKratom.com, home of the $60 kilo, longest running sponsor on this here program, and the most reliable source for your Kratom needs. So if you guys are into Kratom products, you go to YoKratom.com, and just $60, you can get yourself an entire kilo of Kratom. YoKratom.com, home of the $60 kilo. All right. Biden's canceling student debt for more than 160,000 borrowers. I can't stand the drip drip. They do this all the time. It's what they kept doing with Ukraine funding. Oh, we just need to get this $86 billion. And then the next month, we just got to get them another $145 billion. And then you got to go back and read every single one so you can get to some total. It's like, just give it to me straight. And I get it. Biden's got an election to lose, so he's got to figure out who he can bribe. And the construction workers, they're going to be Team Trump no matter what. Unless maybe if you cut those guys $35,000 checks and said, hey, listen, take the year off or put down a down payment on a house 45 years ago. Guys, here, free lunch for a whole year. And then you can pick a specific restaurant, give these guys gift cards, help those people, and then all of a sudden they turn up and they all got McDonald's gift cards and like the dollar menus, like the $75 menu, and they realize they only had lunch for a week. But listen, you know, inflation's going to happen whenever you give people free money. At least they get to have the enjoyment of feeling like they had something, even if it was just for a brief moment in time where you felt like you were wealthier until everyone else went to spend the money as well, and then the prices went up. There was that brief moment in time where you got to feel good. And isn't that all you really want? Are those little brief moments in time where you actually feel like a winner? Anyways, Biden's canceling student debt for more than 160,000 borrowers. I have no idea what the total is. I have no idea who this money's going to. I don't know if these are the wealthy upper middle class kids who got their graduate degrees and are making more money than all of us right now. I don't know if it's the kids that were ripped off from liberal arts things and classes that would never make them a penny, and somehow the schools aren't responsible. You know, this is how at least you unwind stupidity. Is so you end up with this tragedy of kids that were sold on, hey, learn about gender studies, realize that there was absolutely no degree that they could get for it, and at least they pass it on to the next generation. Hey, listen, study something in school that you might actually get a job for. And then maybe at some point all those professors get fired, and then these lanes of stupidity in our society just die off because nobody needs them, there's no money in them, and they end up being embarrassed when all of a sudden you're an old guy at a bar and going, I used to be a gender studies person, and my God, the prestige that existed, and me complaining about how the other white men were a problem. That's how at least stupidity can die off. But if every single time the Fed gets to bail out every person that's being an idiot, the profits are in being the biggest idiot, or being smart enough that you want to group yourself in with the other idiots so that to make sure that you're in line for the bailout. You gotta go out there every single day, be like a weatherman for stupidity, where you take the temperature of what are the biggest dumbasses doing, and how do I make sure that I'm in with them so that I can get a bailout. And that's the banking system in a nutshell. I think at a minimum, though, here's at a minimum, all right? Any of these people that got student loan debts, they got to go to summer camp, they got to party in college, they got to feel like a rock star, they didn't learn anything, they were in their frats, going out on dates, sleeping with college-age women, having the time of their life, then leaving, going back to live in dad's house, realizing that they're a loser, realizing that there were no really good job prospects, saddled with debt, and now they get a bailout. Or maybe they're living a great life because they're just one of those people that just always manages to win. Hey, they got the right degree, they got the right job, and now all of a sudden, next year they're going to be making $250,000 a year, but they're lucky that they're still under whatever the quota is for who's going to get a bailout. And so now government just sends them a free check for $35,000. As far as I'm concerned, these people need to start making some sort of a contribution to humanity. They should be picking up tabs at the bar. They should just be, you know what, guy, drinks on me. Everyone that's sitting next to me. I just got a Biden check. I didn't deserve it. They should be at the airport just picking up random people's luggage and go, hey, let me help you out. No, you don't have to do that. I just got a check from the government, so I got to do something to help out. They should just be valeting our cars. I should see these people on the side of the road with the convicts maintaining the highways. Because it's going to happen pretty soon. Let me tell you, in about a month, I'm going to be driving back from the city at 2 in, yelling that I have to sit in traffic because they shut down a lane of the Merritt Parkway so that they could trim the brushes at 4 in. They should have recent college graduates out there who just got their loans taken away from the government. Even if it's one day, drive past the people and see who collected this loan so that you can shame them and then find out whether or not they needed it. Just something, some sort of a gesture. And here was Pierre Jean, whatever. I don't know her name. I don't know why I don't know her name. The lady's been around long enough. I should know her name, but I haven't cared to learn her name. Here she is commenting on why some people get the money, why others do not.
Just to put a fine point on it right now, for the 4.7 million Americans who have received this debt relief, the average, as you said at the start of this visit, was $35,000 their relief has been for. So I guess why don't those individuals who didn't receive $35,000 in debt cancellation deserve a $35,000 check from other Americans for what other means they would want to use it?
You're talking about
those people who didn't go to college, so they're not getting debt relief, the $35,000 that they don't get because they didn't go.
We're talking about folks who are in debt who are literally being crushed because they took.
All right, let's just pause it there for 1 second. And I'd like to know, is that even true? Is that even true? Like, if we held your feet to the fire and said, okay, is this money just going to people that are literally being crushed? I'm going to guess based on things that I've read previously, you've probably got a lot of kids from middle-class families who are doing okay in life, probably better than some of the kids that didn't have the opportunity to go to college, and now have future earnings potential that are significantly greater than the kids that couldn't afford to go to college. And they're the ones that you're giving free money to, mostly because you're trying to buy votes. And that's what you're really doing here. Instead of go, oh, these people are being crushed. How many of them are really being crushed? What percentage of the people that you gave the money to, is that even an accurate description? And if the idea here is, all right, listen, there's people out there, and we're fully socialist now, and we want to make sure we can afford to help out anybody and anyone at any given time. Modern monetary theory, money's endless, and so anyone that's suffering, it's because we just chose to have this person suffer. So then why is it the people with the college degrees, with the higher income earning potential are the ones that are going to get the free money. Unless you believe that college is fraudulent and that kids shouldn't continue going because they don't have higher income earning potential. And so why wouldn't you make that a policy decision? Listen, we're going to bail some people out, but we're no longer going to make loans available to colleges because it's a scam and it doesn't increase their earning potential. And if it does increase their earning potential, then why are those the ones who are being crushed that are getting a bailout? How many people are like 66, 70, 67 years old, can't afford their medications? I'm not pro-socialism, but I'm just saying if the standard is, all right, people out there being crushed, we have to help out, why are you giving the free money to the people who went to college and should have a higher income earning potential? And if they don't have a higher income earning potential, then why isn't that part of what you're fixing here and warning future kids not to take on debt? Aren't you actually just proliferating the problem, and that colleges now can, I guess, saddle kids with more debt because there's probably opportunities for bailouts down the line the next time Democrats can't win an election? Let's continue.
Financially. Okay, is that okay with you? Okay, but I know, but crushed financially. And so they're trying to get their lives back on track. Right? They're trying to get into a place because they took a bet on themselves in a different way, right? A bet of themselves in going to college. And some of them, it is difficult to do that, right? And they did that financially, it's hurt them, and we want to give them that breathing room.
So guys, I don't know, maybe there needs to be the government breathing room rally. And if you're out there and you just need a little bit of breathing room from the government, show up and start rallying your congressmen, because the government understands if you need breathing room, they've got free money available. And it sounds to me it's not a function of college. It's just that people need breathing room. So I don't understand why we wouldn't be able to extend this to other demographics. All right, what else we got, producer man? I know we got like, I think you guys can take an intermission. You guys can get some snacks. We're first coming into our Twitter clips, except I just ruined the entire episode. Here we go. What's our first Twitter clip that we have, producer man? Oh, this one. Hot lawyer lady for Donald Trump. I have no idea the accuracy of this claim, but you want to talk bombshell and interesting. Fox News on Hannity, lawyer for Trump. These are the same people that said, hey, we got the Kraken for elections. Not this lawyer lady. It was a different lawyer lady. But I'm just saying, being on Fox News as Trump's lawyer, I don't know, but it seems like this one must be accurate, and I thought it was interesting. Let's give it a listen.
And then you have Judge Merchan, who should have recused himself. Judge Merchan, who I want the American people to remember very astutely, has somehow randomly had Steve Bannon's case, had Alan Weisselberg's case, and now put Alan Weisselberg back in jail. Okay, this is what we're dealing with. Somehow he randomly also gets Donald Trump. That's not the way the system works. You assign a case randomly. That's the way it's supposed to work. But in the new America, under the Biden regime, we are sitting here in a politicization of all our judicial systems. He is intentionally obstructing the defense's case. There is no point in us even putting on a defense when you have a judge who is sitting there telling the jury, don't listen to them, I'm going to scream, I'm going to even tell the press that they can't sit in there. And God knows the press is tough on me, but I had their back in this one. They had no business kicking them out. And that judge is so crooked that he couldn't stand that there was bad evidence being brought in by this attorney who happened to work for the SDNY, let's not forget, who has a great, stellar reputation, as you mentioned. But the judge lost his cool. He lost his cool on Monday, and he lost his cool again today. So it's time to wrap this case up, throw it out. If this judge wants any credibility back, that's what he should do. There should have been a directed verdict. There should have been a
Pretty damning. I mean, if that one's true as well, that judges are supposed to be picked randomly, and the same guy who seems to have, I'm going to throw out this word, prosecuted all of Donald Trump's allies, managed to get all three of those court cases, that almost sounds like sloppy work. You know what I mean? It's like the same way that they hired Fannie Willis, and she turned out to be an idiot that hired her lover. And so, yeah, the conflict of interest that derailed what was the most substantial of the cases, which was the election fraud case. And by most substantial, I didn't mean that had the greatest evidence or was the greatest crime. It was just the one that he could have been in the most trouble for. They blew that one. Sometimes they're just bad at executing. And I don't know how that's the first time that we're hearing about this, when people are yelling, screaming, and shouting and going, how is it that Donald Trump, because their whole thing is to create the news. They go, no one's ever had 5 court cases against him. This is how bad he is. And then the rest of us are like, no, that's how corrupt the fucking system is, that you guys are bringing 5 cases against an ex-president. None of these are valid cases. But this seems like a juicy part of the story, if true. That's a classic news one. If true, that it's the same judge, that doesn't seem like a good look. All right, next random YouTube clip is, let's see how Joe Biden's doing. You know, as the court cases against Donald Trump fall apart and we actually head into, you know, it seems like we're going to have debates. It seems like that's going to actually happen. Seems like Biden's going to have to actually get out there and campaign a little bit. So let's see how he's doing out on the campaign trail.
And turn this primary from a campaign that's about negative attacks into one about what we're for, because we cannot get reelected. We cannot win this reelection. Excuse me, we can only reelect Donald Trump.
Did you guys have sound on that? I didn't have sound on that, but from what he basically endorsed Donald Trump there because he doesn't know what he's saying. And that wasn't the only recent incident. Here was him on Memorial Day. You know, you got to pay tributes to the soldiers. You got to show up. You don't always get to do the fun presidential things like fly to Epstein's Island. Sometimes you got to show up to events and you got to pretend like you care about other human beings. You got to pretend you're Mr. Compassion. That's your whole thing. I got compassion for other people, their soul and dignity. And sometimes you got to show up to events and pretend like you care. And for him, that's a good opportunity to take a nap. So here he is, Memorial Day.
Our military families know the
general
long
with the
deployments
prostate
and the
problem up there
painful
giving a
absences.
speech. And you got Joe Biden
They
just
know the
snoozing.
pride that never
When
fades
can I get back to having
and
ice
the
cream
worry
and stuff?
that never leaves.
I gotta be awake for this.
So to
Soldiers
our
don't
Blue
care.
Star
I mean,
and
they're
Gold
dead,
Star
right?
families,
We got more show. Here's Jill Biden pitching Joe. He can't show up. He's got napping to do. But here's Jill Biden on The View pitching Joe Biden. Let's hear what their pitch is.
To tell people that the man is competent, alert, and doing the job. And it's not about his age. The other one is doddering and doesn't remember anything. And can't put a sentence together and has like brain farts in the middle of a paragraph. and they go after Joe.
Well, you know, this is
the reality we're supposed to live in, everybody. The economy's great. You should all be happy. Joe Biden is the intelligent and competent one, and Donald Trump is the one that's lost all of his marbles. The guy, Donald Trump, who can show up and he can do hour-and-a-half long speeches, sharp off the cuff, slick. He's the one with the mental problems, and we're all really bad with our view of reality, and that we somehow think that the economy or that prices are up, or that our president is in some way incompetent. That video that you just watched of him asleep on Memorial Day, you should be seeing a prideful man gathering his thoughts. And the video before that, where he couldn't put sentences together and then ended up telling everyone to vote for the guy he's running against, that's not the man incompetent. You guys are really just being mean and cruel when you look at this old man and pretend like he's incompetent, because you know who's really incompetent? It's not. What reality are you people living in? And are there people that watch this show who actually believe this? All right, let's continue. Let's listen to Jill Biden tell us about how wonderful her husband is, how age isn't a factor, and that the real issue is Trump.
this election is not about age because, like you're saying, I mean, Donald Trump's going to be, what, 78?
78, yeah.
And Joe's 81. They're basically the same age.
Right.
So, but it's about character. This election is about character. So you have two choices. You have my husband, Joe, who you all know, who has integrity. He's strong. He's steady.
Who else showers with their daughter? Who else has drug-addicted kids that they get great positions on boards for other companies for lots of money so that they can afford their drug habits? We're talking about character here.
He's a leader. He's smart. He's energetic. Or you have chaos.
That's right.
Yes, or you have chaos.
Right.
All right, next clip. And you know what? Before I roll the next one, this has been a stacked, dense episode. Who else is bringing you coverage like this? So do me a favor, if you've never done this, rate, review, subscribe, hit the like button. It's the thing I think I hear everyone else say on shows, and maybe it helps you grow your numbers. Email this to friends. Help grow the Run Your Mouth Nation Army. Get more people coming out to porches. Get more people. You want to have more good conversations with people who are well-informed and realize the lunacy that exists in the universe. It's about listening to the Run Your Mouth podcast and sharing it with your loved ones. This Mother's Day, this your Father's Day, instead of gifts, pretend like you bought them a subscription to this. Maybe I'll create a fake website. You pretend like it's like the Human Fund. Well, pretend like you bought a subscription for your friend for this thing that they didn't know about. And at first they'll be like, why does this guy yell so much? Why does this guy talk so much? Why does this guy pace around so much? They're not going to get it. But then over time, I'll wear them down. And then they'll be like, holy shit, I'm way more informed and angry about everything. And that's the way that they want to live their lives. So seriously, it takes 2 seconds. You got the iTunes, just to go put the 5 stars in. Say, I think Robbie's great and he's a wonderful lover. And then you go to iTunes or you go to YouTube, you subscribe. All right, it's enough. Guys, we've got more show. Oh yeah, this was, I wrote this on the plane. I'll just read it to you, because I think I wrote it actually better than what would be off the cuff. President Biden and his aides described this year's election as crucial, existential even, because of Donald Trump's hostility to democracy. Many outside experts agree. Yet given such classic, many outside, who are these experts? Yeah, I guess the people that you want to quote. It's infuriating. Yet given the election's importance, the Biden administration has been notably slow to address one of his biggest political vulnerabilities, immigration. Right, because the whole thing is we got to protect democracy and not what the voters want. I love this just concept of we need to preserve democracy. You know, the democracy that steals money through inflation, sticks the deep state to undermine the people you vote for, so that we can continue to fund wars that you don't want and censor the internet so that you'll thank us for it. That's the democracy that they're describing. The thing that works against your interests, we have to make sure to preserve that. And you can go watch Nancy Pelosi shit on populism, because we can't have people having what they want. All right, we got like 2 or 3 more videos left, and then that's it. We screamed and hollered plenty. Here is James Comey, instilling fear in why we absolutely can't have Donald Trump again. Let's give it a watch.
He is a threat to the rule of law in America. To me, that's what this election is about. Not about policy differences. It's about what kind of country are we going to be. If he has the ability, smarter than he was last time, to use the power of the Department of Justice and the FBI to target his enemies, especially.
Are you describing what Joe Biden just did to Trump? Are you talking about what they did with Crossfire Hurricane when Obama got that one started? Is that what you're describing? Are you describing that if Donald Trump were to do what's been done to him to other people, that we wouldn't have a democracy anymore? Because then it sounds like we already don't have a democracy. If you're saying that weaponizing the judicial system against other candidates would be the end of democracy, so aren't we already at the end of it?
The rule of law in America will change in a way we haven't seen in our lifetime.
When you say target his enemies, how would he do that?
Well, I think the first thing he would do is he would express it in his first term as a wish. I want people to go after so-and-so. I want people to go after Andrew McCabe, the former deputy director of the FBI. In his second term, he would go a step further, I'm highly confident, and say, I want him criminally investigated. And he was close to the bottom of the barrel in his appointees last time. He'll be at the very bottom. And those are the people who carry out that order.
And they're there to protect him, not the Constitution or the rule of law. That'll be the first litany.
We're going to hear more about this. It'll be the end of our country. The guy who was already there, didn't do any of this the first time, tried the January 6th shenanigans of giving a speech and saying I won, and then had the thing certified and relinquished. But guys, the whole democracy will be over. All right, I think this is the last clip I wanted to play because I thought that this was such a bombshell, bad Bill Maher moment. I know, Dave, I never liked Bill Maher. I never cared about him, never did anything for me. I never watched his show. I never watched Politically Incorrect. He's a meaningless figure in my comedic career in terms of people that I've looked to for inspiration. I've never found his stand-up clips funny. There's nothing about Bill Maher that's ever appealed to me. I know that Dave has talked more highly of him even when we criticize him on the show. I thought that this was such a quintessential Bill Maher moment because you can see him sell his exact perspective with the snarky attitude that he has of he's the most right person in the entire universe while he couldn't be getting something any more wrong. He scoffs like he's the elite. How dare you suggest anything other than what I'm saying? In fact, that he's completely wrong. Which, by the way, you guys should watch the video of Bill Burr when he did his podcast, and Bill Burr gave him a tough time. But let's give this. It's a short clip, and he couldn't be more wrong. And by the way, he's not just like, it's one thing if you're a comedian and your thing is not that you work in the news lane and you get something totally wrong. You're like, shit, I read that wrong one day. Or if you go, hey, I think isn't this what happened? And they go, oh, that's not what happened. Oh, I thought it was the other. You know what? Maybe I got to check on that. But there's another thing when you present yourself as being the expert in this category, that you are 100% right on this particular topic. You present it the exact same way that you handle every other situation. And in this case, you're caught dead to rights as just being wrong.
But again, it's a tremendous false equivalency. I think on January 20th, 2025, he'll show up at the White House, whether he's invited or not. And I don't think that's going to be good.
He's gonna bomb in if he lost?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Bomb is a word I wouldn't even throw around lightly.
Oh, stop it. He's not going to do that.
Right. Like there was never an attack on the Capitol.
Oh, I hear you. But he's not going to show up at the inauguration.
Like they didn't show up at the Capitol and break windows and knock down doors and kill cops and chase.
They didn't do that.
And they didn't break windows,
they didn't
knock
kill
down
cops.
They of course did.
No, they didn't.
Who did? They died of natural causes that day?
Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, the medical examiner, has determined that he suffered 2 strokes and died of natural causes.
Yeah, nobody died that day.
Cops?
No, not true. Who?
Okay.
Who?
Oh, I don't remember the names.
They didn't. There was Brian Sicknick, who died later after the fact.
What, they died of natural causes? Ha ha ha. What are you that nutty? You're going to pretend like, and by the way, he was saying multiple cops. His claim was multiple cops died. And how dare you say that it didn't happen? What? Because of natural, as if it was a joke. And that's actually what happened. All right, here's the last thing for today. Going to be a real quick little snapshot out the gate. You've got exclusive Putin wants Ukraine ceasefire on current front lines, basically saying, hey, listen, you let me keep the territories that we've pushed to so far. We can end this thing right now and move on. Now, I've been saying for a long time, you're probably going to end up there, and at least that's a de-escalation, and you got no pathway to victory. So this is probably the easiest way to just end the thing. Now, obviously, Biden can't do that because it will look way too bad. And now this is where just my hamster wheel is turning. You know what's nice about switching presidencies is that we get to de-escalate all of these things and just go, yeah, it was the last administration. Israel's got a bit of an out there with Netanyahu, and even Trump can play that card and go, hey, listen, I think the Israeli people are great. I think they've been misled by their leader. I think when I'm in office, we're going to have peace, but that guy's going to have to go. There's a very slick move of being able to throw current leaders under the bus and pretending, hey, it's not the people, it's not the organization, it was just the leader. That's a slick move. And so on that note, I wonder if China is going to make its play on Taiwan, because even in that case, you know, Trump can de-escalate and go, they never would have done it when I was here. It was because Biden was so weak, they knew they'd get away with it, but now they have it, and we're going to have to move on. I just feel like if I was China and I wanted to take Taiwan, I feel like the end of an administration, if you know for sure that the guy's not going to stay in office, especially if it's in like you got to get it like right on like, and by the way, I was reading some article or I was watching some guy, I don't know if it's true, that they could take it real quick. And then I don't even know if it helps them to take it, because then maybe they bomb all the factories. They don't even have the chips in the warehouses. All of a sudden, none of us have the chips in the warehouses. So, you know, I'm no expert in Taiwan. I haven't been following that storyline. I do look at the map and I'm like, that kind of looks like it's a part of China. But, you know, what do I know about these things? But just for all the chatter of that happening before an election where you know that the incumbent party will definitely be getting flipped, you've got an opportunity to take some aggressive actions that the next guy can de-escalate by saying it was the last guy's fault. All right, that is our episode. Thank you for hanging out with us. Be back. I don't know, what's today? Wednesday? I don't know, maybe Friday we'll do another episode. Saturday, we're doing a big theater with Dave Smith out in Atlantic City. Hopefully they give me a nice hotel room and I could play some craps. I haven't played craps in a long time. I used to go to Atlantic City in high school all the time, because, not all the time, that's an overstatement, but somehow, at some point in time, me and my friends were at the Borgata. We're playing the $5 blackjack table, and I two best friends were with me. or at least one of them was. I don't remember that both of them was, but one of them, and I got good friends. They're kind of jackasses. And my friend was just giving the pit boss a hard time, like, so you gonna hook us up with some free breakfast? You gonna hook us up with some free breakfast? Like I'm actually like quiet and shy, at least kind of now. And my friends, they're ball busty loudmouths. And, or maybe they're just Jews. Maybe I'm just describing being a Jew. And then maybe free breakfast, maybe free breakfast. Anyways, I don't know what happened in that interaction, but they hooked us up with some free breakfast, and the free breakfast was phenomenal. I remember that there was this big stone thing, and there was this person flipping pancakes. That was the best pancake I ever ate. Man, I'm sure the Borgata's a dump now. I haven't been there in 20 years, but in college it was like the big fancy Atlantic City hotel, and it was cool. Something happened in that interaction that we got put on a list, or maybe just no one goes to Atlantic City, and they used to give us like a free hotel room every single month. And so we used to sometimes go down there and not gamble and just have the hotel room because we were poor college kids, and just having in a hotel room was exciting. I don't even like, and then drinking on the boardwalk was fun. Playing those stupid carny games that you could never win was fun. I like, there's this one casino down there, which it's like you walk into this warehouse and it's like old-timey themed for the Wild West, but it's just a dump. And I used to drink a lot of vodka cranberries in there. That was a good time. And then here's a fun Atlantic City game. This is one of my favorite games. And it would be nice, you know what, if I could find other people to play this game with and then maybe actually walk up and place bets. This is a fun game. It's the best casino game. It's called Are They Working? And it's when you bet on women and whether or not they're hookers in the casino. And so sometimes the tell is if they're like hanging out at the slot machines and it just looks like they're looking for a little action. Or sometimes if you find a dude who's with a lady that he totally shouldn't be with. But that's a little bit like asking someone if they're pregnant. Like, you really need a ballsy friend to walk over and try and negotiate that one. That's asking a fat lady if she's pregnant. Because there's not, you know, I mean, at that point, she basically is a high-end hooker if she married some disgusting older guy just for the money. Maybe. I don't know. You know what? You guys can debate that amongst yourselves. But if you would just walk up to that person, you're like, hey, listen, what's your rate for after this one? You're like, that's my husband, you pig. Anyways, I'm looking forward. I haven't been to Atlantic City in years. I like wandering that boardwalk. The last time I was there, I did a gig with Justin Silver. And we had a blast hanging out down there, but it was a terrible gig. It was like in some club. I had to like get up on some table in front of a bunch of frat kids. I just bombed for 15 minutes so that Justin Silver could go up there and crowd work his way out. He did great, but you know, I ate total shit. But then the next night we went to some cigar bar in Philly. That was a good time. Anyways, the episode's over. I got nothing more to say anymore. Share the episode with your friends. Go to summerporchstore.com. See when I'm out in your area. Still looking for an Atlanta porch. That one fell through. Other than that, you know, keep running your mouth. Get out there. Yellow people.